Can you go? Are you on? Yeah.
All right, I will be your MC for the afternoon, but before I get started, I just wanted to go over a few meeting logistics. We are offering Spanish interpretation during the meeting today. In your meeting controls, if you're interested in this feature, you can click on the interpretation feature, the small globe icon at the bottom of your screen, and click the language that you would prefer to hear. Your choices today are either English or Spanish. Our Spanish interpreter is Laura Chavez, and Laura is going to explain how you can get into that room in Spanish. Laura.
Hola, buenas tardes. Yo soy su intérprete en español. Si usted tiene deseo de escuchar esta plática en español, tiene que ir al menú de abajo de su pantalla, seleccionar el globo y seleccionar el idioma Spanish o español. Ahí va a escuchar usted una interpretación simultánea. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. We are also grateful today that we are joined by 2 American Sign Language interpreters, Denise Martinez and Sandy Ligren. In order to view their videos, you can find the interpreter's specific video in the gallery. In the top right corner of the interpreter's video, click on the ellipses and then click the pin video option. This will keep the interpreter on the screen the entire time. When the interpreters switch, you can follow the same steps to pin the other interpreter. We are also joined by Denise Garcia, who will be providing cart captioning today. In order to start viewing the closed captioning, you can click on the closed caption icon, the icon with the letter CC at the bottom of your screen. A couple tips here. You can also, if you activate closed captioning in Zoom, you can also click and drag the closed captioning itself to move its positioning within the meeting window. And also, if you would like to adjust the captioning size, you can do so by going to the Start Video icon on the bottom left of your screen. Click that little upward arrow, go to Video Settings, then Accessibility, and you can move that slider around to adjust the caption size. If you need technical assistance at all during the meeting today, please use the chat feature at the bottom of your screen. We have somebody standing by to provide technical assistance throughout the meeting. Next slide. So at every MBTA meeting, we want to remind folks that all MBTA activities, including public meetings, are free of discrimination. We strive to comply with all federal and state civil rights requirements, preventing the discrimination on the basis of race, color, national origin, limited English proficiency, disability, and additional protected characteristics. We value the diversity from across our entire services area. If you have any questions or concerns, please visit mbta.com, title Roman numeral 6, to reach the Office of Diversity and Civil Rights here at the T. Okay. And we have a jam-packed agenda for today's meeting. We are going to start with some introductory remarks from our new GM, Philip Ng. Judge Patrick King is then going to be providing his status update regarding the settlement agreement. We'll then move into 4 topical presentations on different major accessibility efforts underway here at the T. And then we'll hear directly from the lead named plaintiff, Joanne Daniels-Finegold, as well as Elizabeth Foster, one of our co-chairs from the Riders Transportation Access Group. And then during the second half of the meeting, we'll have lots of time for feedback and Q&A. All right, you can take down the slides. You can take down the slides all together, Billy. All right, and without any further ado, I am pleased to be able to introduce our new general manager, Philip Bang. Folks may be aware that the GM just joined us just under 2 months ago. In that short time, he and I have had a chance to speak on a number of occasions and talk about this settlement agreement, its impact, our priorities and goals for the future, and how we can improve accessibility system-wide. So I will turn it over to him for his introductory remarks. Mr. General Manager.
Thank you, Laura. Good afternoon, everyone, and I'm very pleased to be able to be here with everyone. As Laura mentioned, I did recently just take over as general manager, but I also want to thank the previous interim general manager, Jeff Gonaville. He has, from my understanding, done a lot with regards to this group, and that goes a long way to demonstrating the T's commitment to accessibility. And the ability to have that communication back and forth is immense, right? Because that's how we build credibility, that's how we build trust, but that's also how we make progress. And I want to assure everyone that what you've come to know and expect with regards to the T and Jeff will not change. We will continue to build off the successes that we've had in the past. A little bit about myself. Been in transportation for 40 years. Previous role was president of Long Island Railroad, and prior to that was acting president New York City Transit, as well as chief operating officer at the MTA. And then prior to that, working for the New York State Department of Transportation. But really what it is about and why I decided to join the T is about public service, safe, reliable, equitable, and accessible transportation for everybody. And that's what our goal is, and that's what we will not lose sight of. I know right now there's a lot of news and attention with regards to the T and providing the appropriate safe services and tackling some of the things that are occurring with regards to previous issues regarding service and speeds. But I assure everyone that our focus coming forward will be not only addressing that, but to make sure that we continue to build off the successes that everyone here has been working on, and continuing to make sure our system is accessible for all. Over the last few weeks, I've had a great chance to work with Laura on a number of issues, as she mentioned, but I had a chance to meet with a number of other key people, Judge King, Tara Duchette, Bill Henning, and I mentioned Laura Brailsford, a key leader here at the T for us. And with the conversations, begin to hear how they feel about accessibility of the T. Also learn about how we are continuing to move and progress that area, build off of the last 15 years, thanks to Daniels-Finegold settlement agreement and the hard work of all the folks here today. It is genuine, it is productive partnership, and folks that have devoted so much of their time to this. It is truly inspiring and it makes me feel that much more dedicated to making sure we continue that relationship, because the partnership that I see and have heard about between the plaintiffs and the T is not what you would expect. It is really a true partnership of us working together, and I want to make sure that we continue that towards achieving 100% accessibility of our system. My role here today, be supportive, to listen and to learn. And I look forward to meeting with all of you in the coming weeks and months, in person, hopefully at some point, including participating at the RTAG's next public meeting at the end of the month. So I think with that, given a long agenda, I'm going to turn it back over, but say thank you very much for allowing me to participate.
Thank you so much. I now have the pleasure to turn things over to Judge Patrick King, who has been the independent monitor of the settlement agreement for many years. Judge King?
Good afternoon, everyone, and I'd like to welcome the General Manager with your extensive background and experience in public transportation. We all look forward to enjoying all the success that you'll achieve over the next several years in your role as General Manager. For those of you who have not attended one of these semi-annual public meetings before, let me explain my role and the purpose of these meetings. So as part of the 2006 settlement agreement of a class action under the American with Disabilities Act, I was appointed in 2007 by the Federal District Court as the independent monitor to oversee compliance with the settlement agreement. The settlement agreement provides for these public meetings. This is our 32nd public meeting. The purpose of the meeting is for me to report on the MBTA's compliance with the settlement agreement, to bring the community up to date on recent developments relating to accessibility improvements, and to obtain public feedback on how well the MBTA is doing to meet its obligations. Today's meeting will last about 2 hours. During the first hour of the meeting, I will give you my report concerning the status of compliance with the agreement. After that, you will hear from System-wide Accessibility Assistant General Manager Laura Brailsford and other team managers who will inform you about some significant developments regarding accessibility. The second hour of the meeting will be to hear from persons from the disability community concerning your feedback on how well you feel the MBTA is doing. It will also provide you with the opportunity to ask any questions you may have. This feedback provides MBTA management with important information that they use to improve service. This will be our 7th public meeting conducted using Zoom. It requires considerable expertise to manage a meeting like this, and I would like to thank all the T employees and interpreters whose technical skills make this Zoom meeting possible. The 2006 settlement agreement obligated the MBTA to make over 200 changes to the system to improve accessibility for all riders. In December 2018, the plaintiffs and the T signed an amended settlement agreement that listed 46 items that remain to be completed under the original agreement. The amended settlement agreement set forth the timetable for completing the remaining 46 terms, as well as certain additional accessibility commitments that the MBTA agreed to that were not part of the original settlement agreement. Since the amended settlement agreement was signed, the MBTA has complied with 33 of the 46 terms listed in that amended agreement, leaving 13 terms to be completed. While some of the terms, once completed, required no further action, such as phasing out high-floor buses, most fall into the category that are currently compliant, but where the T has an ongoing obligation to remain compliant. And I continue to monitor performance in those areas, such as elevator uptime. There's a good chance that most of the remaining 13 items will become compliant within the next year. After the MBTA completes its obligations under the amended settlement agreement, the Riders Transportation Access Group, known as RTAG, will be responsible for overseeing the MBTA's ongoing accessibility performance. RTAG will be holding its next meeting on Thursday, June 29th at 5:30 p.m. This will be a virtual meeting. And I urge members of the disability community to attend that meeting and to get involved in RTAG. If you have not already met Kat Torres Radisic, RTAG's recently appointed facilitator, you will have a chance to meet her at that virtual meeting. I realize that some people attending today's meeting are users of the ride services and may have had unpleasant experiences with that service. However, we will not be discussing the ride today because the amended settlement agreement does not cover the ride. So any questions related to the ride should be directed to system-wide accessibility separate from today's meeting. I would like to take this opportunity to thank past General Manager Steve Poptak for all that he did during his 4-year tenure as GM to keep the MBTA on course in its goal to make the system 100% accessible. Despite the pandemic and all the challenge the T had to deal with the last 4 years, thanks to his unwavering commitment to making the system 100% accessible, we have seen numerous improvements in accessibility. I would also like to thank Jeff Gonville for his dedicated work as acting general manager during the transition early this year, as well as his outstanding performance for the many years that he served prior to becoming the assistant general manager. He and management in general have had numerous urgent matters to attend with limited resources available to them, but managed to keep accessibility as a priority, for which we are all grateful. Also to be thanked our plaintiffs, the named plaintiffs, I won't name them all, but also Bill Henning from BCIL, GBLS attorney Tara Doucette, for their ongoing involvement for over 20 years in partnership with the MBTA to make the system accessible to everyone. Of course, much thanks are owed to Laura Brailsford and her outstanding staff at SWA for all they have accomplished over the years. A crucial component of the original settlement agreement was the creation of the position of the assistant general manager, which Laura now holds, the creation of the Department of System-Wide Accessibility, and the creation of the internal monitoring program. Under this monitoring program, teams of observers and testers travel the system and report back on how well the MBTA is doing when it comes to accessibility, including everything from reporting to the quality of stop announcements to the quality of securements of wheeled mobility devices. Glenda Campbell took over responsibility for this program in January of last year and has been successful in getting the program back up and running after the program had to be curtailed due to the pandemic. With a few exceptions, the monitoring reports reflect a high degree of compliance with the requirements of the amended settlement agreement. I realize that the system is not perfect and that in a system with thousands of employees, some employees' performance will fall below expectations. But the key is to make sure that when an employee fails to make stop announcements, passes by a customer waiting for a bus, fails to secure a wheel mobility device properly, or fails to meet any other obligations regarding accessibility, that the MBTA take prompt action to investigate any complaints of violations of policy and takes corrective action, including, when appropriate, imposing discipline. The MBTA now has a very good system in place to keep track of accessibility complaints and to conduct prompt investigations of complaints and to require additional training and impose discipline where appropriate. SWA is available to monitor the T's performance in following up on complaints. In recent years, there has been a significant improvement in this area. The internal monitoring program, however, can only do so much because of the size of the program compared to the many thousands of bus and train rides taken every day. So it's very important that you report any problems you encounter. If you experience accessibility-related problems with the MBTA, please report it by calling into the 617-222-3200 number. Be sure to provide sufficient information so that the employee in question can be identified. By that, I mean, for example, date and time of day, bus route, employee number, and bus or train number. There are now cameras throughout the system, so if sufficient information is provided concerning an incident, the video can be viewed so that it can be determined whether the employee failed to follow T policies so that he said, she said situations can be avoided. The bus monitoring program reports show areas where the T is doing very well. For example, 98.3% of the monitors boarded their assigned fixed route buses successfully. Bus operators pulled to the curb 97% of the time. Onboard stop announcements made both audibly and visually 96.6% of the time. Operators fulfilled reasonable requests for assistance, for example, lowering the ramp for ambulatory monitor at 94.6% of the time. However, the bus monitoring reports also show areas where improvement is needed. For example, there continues to be numerous instances in which operators are not applying all 4 securement straps to monitors' wheeled mobility devices. During the last quarter of this past year, all 4 straps were applied only 81% of the time. This is a notable decline in compliance that began at the start of the pandemic. On average, between the third and quarter of 21 and the third quarter of 22, 4 securements were applied 81.8% of the time. A significant decrease from pre-pandemic rates, which averaged 93.2% in 2019. During the fourth quarter of last year, 18.3% of the time, at least 2 of the securement straps were not tightened properly. In 2019, 2 of the straps were not tightened properly, only about 7% of the time. During the fourth quarter of last year, operators were only successful in applying the lap shoulder belt 56% of the time. This has been a long-standing challenge, which existed even before the pandemic, where compliance ranged between 42 and 63%. In December, I mentioned the problem with replacing missing bus signs in a timely manner. I reported that over the prior year, there were complaints about 300 missing bus signs that can take up to 9 months to replace. I asked SWA to investigate this. SWA reported back that the backlog is due in part to staffing shortages and curtailment and authorized overtime. However, for fiscal year 2024, there's funds in the budget for an additional position. So hopefully we'll see some improvement in the future in this area. SWA also informs me that the service planning team is mapping out a strategy to survey all bus stops to collect basic information, including missing signs. They also need to focus on the condition of the existing signs, because I've noticed many signs that are so faded that they're difficult to read and really need to be replaced. Until the last 2 public meetings, I've had not had occasion to address elevator and escalator service very often, because they have typically been running up more than 90% of the time. For this reason, I found the T in compliance with term 54 of the amended settlement agreement. However, in my last 2 reports, I reported my concern that there has been a decrease in the uptime of elevators and escalators. Specifically, during fiscal year 21, elevator time was up 99.5% of the time, while in fiscal year 2022, it decreased to 98.5% of the time. While a 1% decline may not sound like much, it can have a huge impact on the ability of persons with disabilities to use the system, especially in stations with only 1 elevator. It also suggests an overall decline in service in this area. Likewise, the uptime for the escalators has decreased with 3 escalators out of service for many months. For this reason, I asked SWA to do a deep dive into the reasons for this decrease in uptime and for a remedial plan. In response, T's engineering and maintenance, system-wide accessibility and quality management departments have completed a very thorough investigation of the problem on elevators and have come up with a plan to remedy the problem that contribute to the decrease in elevator uptime. Mark Molowick and Mark Cunningham will be giving you a detailed report on their findings and remedial plan later in the program, so I will not go into any further detail on this subject now, other than to say that I will continue to monitor the situation. The T is also looking into the reasons for the decrease in escalator uptime, and I hope to have a report on this by our next meeting. As you are aware, a major challenge of keeping elevators clean is the use of the elevators as toilets. To address this issue, the T recently completed a 3-month urine detection sensor pilot program to develop a prototype urine detection device to be used in elevators, with the goal of providing real-time notifications to the maintenance control center regarding the need to clean a unit. A link to that study is posted in the chat section, and the study is on the T's website. The sensors were installed in 4 elevators in Chinatown, Downtown Crossing, and Park Street stations. One of the presenters from the T will tell you more about the study, but I would like to mention a few things. First, the sensor has not proved to be a useful tool for identifying the presence of urine because of too many false negatives and false positives. However, the data does provide useful information showing the extent of the problem in the 4 elevators that were subject to the study. Specifically, the Chinatown elevator was being used as a toilet on an average of twice a day, while the other 3 elevators were being soiled on an average of once every 3 days. The MBTA should be able to identify the elevators experiencing the most abuse and come up with a plan to monitor these elevators by using cameras in the elevators monitored by T staff to identify the offenders and to promptly deal with anyone engaging this type of behavior. The MBTA has made great improvements in elevator cleanliness in recent years, but clearly, as demonstrated by the situation in Chinatown, more needs and can be done to ensure that elevators stop being used as toilets. Now, Term 75 of the amended settlement agreement requires the T to maintain a system of receiving and resolving complaints. This is another area where I found the T in compliance, but as I mentioned in my last report, there has been significant problems with the call center run by Accessibility. That vendor has experienced high employee turnover, which makes it difficult for inexperienced employees to master the complexities of the system and the reporting requirements. Complaints that are received are often not identified as accessibility related, or insufficient information is gathered to allow the T to investigate the complaints. I've urged T management to focus on dealing with this problem, and I've recommended that this service be taken back in-house. When the system was in-house, we did not experience these types of problems in the past. Let me now turn briefly to the 13 amended settlement agreement terms remaining to be brought in compliance and share with you the current status of compliance efforts. Terms 73 and 77 of the amended settlement agreement requires the MBTA to provide alternative transportation services consistent with the ADA for all persons with disabilities. With all the construction taking place at facilities owned by the T, there has been an increased need for alternative transportation between stations, especially during the weekends. Because the T lacks sufficient bus drivers to provide the service, it needs to rely on private contractors for alternative transportation services. At times, those contractors lack sufficient resources and need to rely on out-of-state bus companies to meet the needs. Often the buses used by these vendors are coach-style buses with mechanical wheeled mobility device lifts that often do not work, or when they do work, the operator doesn't know how to use the lifts. While the MBTA has done an excellent job in organizing alternative transportation when needed in providing private vendors furnishing the service with an excellent curriculum for ADA training, the private vendors have not all been doing a satisfactory job in training drivers and assuring their compliance with the ADA. Plaintiffs consistently convey to me and SWA their dissatisfaction with the failure of private vendors to comply with the ADA, including, among other things, lack of stop announcements, failure to pull to the curb, failing to properly secure wheeled mobility devices, inability to use lifts, and refusing to allow passengers using walkers and rollators to use the bus lifts. Internal monitoring reports, as well as random inspection by bus officials, have confirmed these problems. Until the MBTA improves its alternative transportation services by providing properly equipped buses and properly trained drivers, I will not be able to find the MBTA in compliance with terms 73 and 75. Part of the solution to this problem may be to pay the MBTA bus drivers overtime to work on the weekend diversions and to allow private vendors without suitable equipment to drive MBTA-owned buses. A major part of the problem that has occurred in this area is because the vendors do not have the modern accessible equipment that the MBTA has and uses. In sum, the MBTA needs to develop and implement processes for ensuring that all vehicles used by private contractors meet compliance standards and all operators receive appropriate accessibility training before working on MBTA diversions. Term 69 requires the MBTA to create a new design guideline for accessibility to replace the last design guide that was published 33 years ago and is now out of date. The first 6 chapters have been completed. The remaining chapters are expected to be completed by the end of the year. Term 12 requires emergency preparedness for MBTA employees and third-party providers. The MBTA is well on the way to complying with this term. Indeed, I just saw in the news this past Sunday that the MBTA conducted an emergency preparedness drill of the commuter line, which appears to have gone off quite well. However, 2 areas remain to be completed, namely developing training for MBTA police and ensuring that third-party bus drivers receive emergency preparedness training designed by system-wide accessibility. Term 30 of the amended settlement agreement requires that stop announcements be reliably made on subway cars. The orange and blue cars are doing quite well, and the red line cars have improved to about 80%. A problem has been found on the red line annunciator by vehicle maintenance, and a replacement part has been developed and is being deployed to improve announcements. But with the age of these legacy vehicles, until the new red line cars are in service, I expect that we will continue to experience red line stop announcement problems. Term 20 of the amended settlement agreement requires the T to reduce to writing its policies for notification to relevant agencies about proposed service changes and to provide those agencies with the opportunity for input. This is still a work in progress, but hopefully by the year that term will be complied with. Terms 44 and 71 of the amended settlement agreement provides that the MBTA shall ensure that appropriate MBTA personnel are available to assist all passengers with access. Also, the MBTA must establish and operate a system to aid customers with disabilities during all hours of operation. Customer assistance services must be available at all stations on the fixed route system. Customer assistance services must include a means of providing help with boarding or leaving trains and buses, using accessibility features, arranging for alternative transportation when necessary, and other assistance to facilitate use of the system by persons with disability. In 2021, the MBTA presented a station staffing coverage plan to be scaled up over 2 years, and based upon this plan, the T asked me to find that the MBTA is in substantial compliance with terms 44 and 77 of the amended settlement agreement. However, I found that it was premature to find that the T is in compliance with these terms before the plan was implemented. Now, the MBTA board has approved a contract which will allow the MBTA to implement the increased station coverage utilizing the services of block-by-block transit ambassadors. Block-by-block expects to be able to increase its staffing by this August. The new contract is for 5 years with options for 3 additional years. SWA has provided over 200 transit ambassadors with enhanced accessibility training. Once the new transit ambassadors are in place, I anticipate that I will be able to find that the MTA is in compliance with terms 44 and 71. Term 70 of the amended settlement agreement requires the MBTA to develop and implement a plan for collaboration with cities and towns relating to a broad range of issues affecting accessibility, such as removal of snow from bus stops and removal of illegally parked vehicles in bus stops. SWA hopes to have a draft plan to the plaintiffs by the end of the summer. Terms 55 and 56 deal with new elevators connecting the red and orange lines at Downtown Crossing. The design work is nearly completed, and a notice to proceed to construction is expected to go out in the spring of 2024. Once construction begins, it will take several years, of course, to complete the project. However, the MBTA will be considered in substantial compliance with this term, provided construction contracts are executed and funded, and notices proceed to contracts have issued for all connections, and also a robust system of wayfinding and announcements is designed for implementation. Terms 87 and 88 requires MBTA to develop a marketing campaign on accessibility. These requirements are designed to educate the community about the available services and to encourage them to use the fixed service route services. SWA is aiming to launch this campaign in September of 2023. We know there are many people who don't use the MBTA because they do not feel it is accessible. So it's very important for the MBTA to let everyone know about the enormous changes and improvements that are made so that more people can have the benefit of using the fixed route services. Finally, let me mention briefly SWA initiatives. The T is involved in dozens of exciting projects to make the system more accessible, many of which go beyond the requirements of the amended settlement agreement. We don't have the time to discuss those initiatives today, but you can find a detailed report on SWA's website showing the status of those initiatives. This concludes my report. Let me now turn it over to Laura Brailsford to make a few remarks and introduce the next speaker.
Great, Judge King, thank you so much for that, and thank you for making my job over the next few minutes quite easy, as you covered some of what I was about to share. Billy, can we get the slides back up on the screen? So as the judge just mentioned, we have dozens of significant initiatives related to improving and expanding accessibility system-wide happening today. I'm going to be introducing 4 presentations from my colleagues on some of those very issues. In addition to those presentations, I wanted to refer people to a new updated report we put out every 6 months that summarizes updates on each of those initiatives. And you will see a link to this report in the chat. But just to talk about some of those highlights, we've got 26 inaccessible stations under design. We have rolled out brand new refreshed trainings for frontline staff on accessibility best practices. And we, as the judge mentioned, are about ready to significantly scale up our station staffing thanks to a expansion of our transit ambassador, station ambassador staffing program. All right, I am still not seeing any slides. Is that just me? Can we have somebody pull up the slide deck as I introduce the next presenter?
Yes, one moment, Laura.
Thanks, Ash. Before I introduce the first presenter, we'd like to remind everybody that in addition to checking out that initiatives report, if you'd like to learn more about accessibility at the T, there's a number of ways to do that. If you go to mbta.com/accessibility, we have a ton of information and resources available there. If you have a question, a complaint, or accommodation, though, you can always reach us at our main customer service number, which is 617-222-3200, or going to mbta.com and clicking on support. You can fill out a comment or question form there. Or you can always tweet at us by tweeting at MBTA. As we mentioned at the last settlement update meeting in December, we are really thrilled that we've opened our new mobility center at 1000 Mass Ave. This is a one-stop shop where folks can go to learn more about what transit options in the Boston area might work for them, whether it's our bus service, our ride service, or a service provided by one of our local municipalities. The Mobility Center is a really great resource. You can visit them in person or by calling 617-337-2727. As the judge mentioned, we have our next PARTAG public meeting on Thursday, June 29th at 5:30. Those are always great opportunities to learn more and share feedback. And finally, what's already on the calendar, the next settlement update is scheduled for December 6th in the evening. All right, but without any further ado, I'm thrilled to introduce the next presentation. It is no surprise that the operability and reliability of our elevators and escalators is one of our core priorities here at the MBTA. Elevator reliability is and has been central to all of our conversations over the last 15 years, thanks to the plaintiffs and everyone involved in bringing the settlement to light. We've been extremely proud that for over a decade, our elevator uptime has been recognized as being the best in the country relative to other major transit providers, averaging 99.4% or better on a daily basis. However, in 2002, we noticed a noticeable uptick in elevator outages. Based on that, we formed a working group internally comprised of our engineering and maintenance team, staff from our office of the chief engineer, as well as system-wide accessibility. That working group has been focused on understanding the issue and developing a corrective action plan. And today you're going to be hearing from Mark Cunningham from our engineering and maintenance department, as well as Mark Bolwick from the quality management branch of our chief engineer's office, who will be sharing some of those findings and recommendations that have come out of that group. With that, Mark, I am turning it over to you.
All right, thank you very much, Laura. Hello, Judge King, and hello, everyone who is joining with us. Again, my name is Mark Cunningham. I'm a business analyst in the engineering and maintenance group. I will be presenting the analytical findings from this working group. After I speak, Mark Molwick will be joining, and he will be presenting the recommendations that have come out of this working group. So we'll kick it right off with the executive summary here. 2022, as has been said before, saw a noticeable decrease in elevator uptime. What we found in this and through our analysis was that almost all of this decrease is attributable to long-term outages. Long-term outages we defined as greater than 3 hours. We picked this for a couple reasons. One, this time would account for almost all of our preventative maintenance activities that we perform on our elevators. And second, that this 3 hours would hopefully not be a significant burden to those who rely on the elevators in our system. So next, we identified 6 root causes that contributed most to these long-term outages. Those were broken parts, groundwater, fire department doors. I'll explain later in the presentation what I mean by that. Environmental exposure, broken glass, and finally, employee injury. The last 2 points here, supply chain issues. You know, as many industries and companies have experienced over the last 2 years, there were supply chain issues that prolonged many of our elevator repairs. That was a finding of our working group. And finally, age, we found, was not a significant factor in our elevator uptime. So we can go on to the next slide, please. As we said, 2022 saw a noticeable decrease. Well, what are we talking about? 2021, our uptime was 99.6%. However, in 2022, calendar year 2022, this dropped to 98.0%. So if we go to the next slide, the question posed to our working group was, why the decrease? What changed between these 2 years? Was it that more elevators were going out of service? Were elevators perhaps staying out of service for longer periods of time? Are there different reasons that these elevators were going out of service? So we answered this question, why the decrease, with the graphic that I'd like to show to you on the next slide. So the graphic presented here on the right is called a tree map. This is a visualization that uses rectangles to show the duration of our elevator outages. Each rectangle's size corresponds to the length of the time. And so the larger the rectangle, the longer the outage. If we focus on the blue section on the right, these are representative of all elevator outages in the year 2021. The section on the left, colored in orange, represents all of the elevator outages in the year 2022. Furthermore, we broke this down into our short-term and long-term outages. The short-term outages are indicated by the darker colored squares in the bottom right, and the lighter colored squares are the long-term outages. So what did we learn by going through this? We found that outage time was 5 times greater in 2022. That is obvious if you are able to see that the orange section is much larger than the blue section. So we found outage time 5 times greater. Short-term outage time did increase. It increased by 40% between 2021 and 2022. But really it was the long-term outages that was driving this increase. Long-term outage time increased by 521% between these 2 years. As far as number of distinct outages, we found this also increased. There were 1,268 outages in 2021. This increased to 1,900 the next year. Our key finding from all of this was that 98% of the total increase in outage time is attributable to these long-term outages. So to understand the increase in the downtime that we've seen in 2022, it requires us to understand what is going on with these long-term outages. Why were these elevators out of service for such long periods of time? What we did as a group was identify and isolate the top 30 elevator outages. These are presented on the graphic on the right. This is the same graphic you saw on the previous screen with the top 30 elevator outages highlighted. These outages represent approximately 70% of the outage time in 2022. Next slide, please. So we took these top 30 outages and identified initial causes for each of those. This is summarized in the bar graph on the right. This bar graph is titled Hours of Service and has 7 bars in descending order of hours out of service. These bars are broken part, employee injury, groundwater, fire department doors, environmental exposure, broken glass, and then a bar labeled other. So let's talk about a few of these if we can. Broken parts and damage due to water infiltration. That was the groundwater and the environmental exposure. We found that those were key causes for elevator outages in 2022. I promised I would mention fire department doors, and we found that there were 2 outages out of the top 30 that were caused by fire departments. These were fire departments that responded to 2 entrapments, and when they responded and opened up the doors, they caused damage to the doors and other aspects of the other parts of the elevators. And so there were 2 outages, 2 elevators that were out for multiple weeks as we repaired those units. Employee injury is the second highest among these top 30. This was actually the result of a single elevator at Haymarket Station. It was out for such a long period of time due to the reinspection and the retesting process. So although employee injury is number 2 on this bar chart, it really is only the result of a single unit. And then I'll make a brief note about the other bar. These were 3 elevators that were relatively newer elevators. These elevators were maintained by our capital delivery department. And we found that actually a majority of this time of service was likely due to poor reporting, and that these elevators were not out of service for as long as it appeared. Next slide, please. I mentioned this in the executive summary, but supply chain issues were a factor in 2022. We found that of the top 30, at least 9 elevator outages were prolonged due to these supply chain issues. Anecdotally, we found that some broken parts that may have taken days to procure have now taken weeks for us to procure. And during the time that we wait for these parts, these elevators sit out of service. So on the right-hand side, I have the same bar graph from the previous slide. On this slide, I have highlighted broken part, fire department doors, and broken glass, which all had some aspect of supply chain issues. Next slide, please. Another underlying factor was interagency coordination. What I generally mean by that is that when many of these units go out of service, it is part of the process that they be re-inspected and retested by the state's Department of Occupational Licensure, that's the DOL. and they need to be retested, re-inspected before they can be reopened. It's part of the process, and actually last year we collaborated with the DOL to expedite this process with the goal of reducing the time that it takes for these out-of-service elevators to be reopened. And so I have taken the same bar graph on the right and highlighted broken part, employee injury, environmental exposure, and broken glass as some of these root causes that also had interagency coordination as a factor. So for actions to date, I mentioned on the previous slide talking about working with the DOL to increase reinspection time. We've taken some more actions to date already. The first with regard to broken parts and supply chain issues. I'll say that since 2005, the MBTA has multiple stock rooms on property, specifically for elevator and escalator parts. In the past year, we have worked with our maintenance vendor to make sure that more of these specialized parts are always on hand. This is the goal of reducing supply chain issues so that we don't have to wait for any of our vendors to supply these parts to us. Second action with regard to groundwater and environmental exposure. The Transit Facilities Maintenance Department has worked to waterproof several elevator pits throughout the system. The work they have done could involve waterproofing the pits, installing a pump, for example, and so they have worked to waterproof more, and they are working to do more in the future as well. Next, regard to the doors damaged by the fire departments, we have met with local fire chiefs to retrain these fire units when they respond in non-emergency situations. Of course, in the case of an emergency, we would expect that the fire department would take any action to rescue a passenger. But what we found was that in many cases, our maintenance vendor can respond to these entrapments quickly. They can open the door safely, and the elevators do not need to be out of service for weeks as we wait to repair those. Finally, with regard to broken glass, our maintenance vendor is now subcontracting a new glass vendor. And this is with the goal to expedite the procurement process when the need for glass arises. Then on to the next slide. This will be the last slide before I hand it over. But since we are now in the month of June, I thought we would provide some stats for 2023 year to date. Our uptime year to date is 98.4%. This is an increase from 2022, which was 98.0%. And because of our working group's analysis that we need to increase the focus on the long-term outages, we've identified a couple of those long-term outages this year. There were a couple issues of broken parts. Those were elevators at Downtown Crossing and Porter stations. And second, groundwater caused elevator outages at North Station and at Harvard Station. Then on the right-hand picture of this slide, I have a photo of an elevator. This is an elevator at the lower busway of Ruggles Station. All right, we can go to the next slide, and I'll hand it over to my colleague, Mark.
Thanks, Mark. In addition to the actions to date that Mark just presented on, we had 4 recommendations that we'd like to propose moving forward. So the first one is ensuring timely notifications to riders regarding outages and provisions of service. The MBTA already has numerous provisions for notifying riders about current or upcoming outages, which include our website, real-time alerts being sent to the rider's cell phone, a dedicated hotline for elevator and escalator information, and customer display boards with real-time information at stations. Additionally, we also have a shuttle service that provides service when there are no alternative paths or accessibility via elevators. The SWA team, the system-wide accessibility team, recommends reviewing both this communication and alternative service path in the upcoming months. Next slide. Recommendation number 2 is the integration of elevator maintenance into the enterprise asset management system. E&M is recommending that the KONE technicians receive tablets in the field so they can directly report elevator outages. This will improve the record keeping and analysis related to elevator uptime, as well as the oversight and diagnostic. Next slide. The third recommendation is to replace obsolete elevators. So this obsolete elevators specifically is when no parts, we are defining as when no parts are available or maintained. So this would not be, say, the oldest unit. We actually found that many of the older units were performing just as well as some of the younger units. So this is not based on age. This is more based on part availability. This way, if a part, if something breaks, we will make sure that we do not have any obsolete elevators in the systems. Parts will be readily available and will decrease elevator downtime. It's important to note the MBTA has money earmarked for financial year 2024. And we are putting these obsolete units on that list of elevator replacements for financial year 2024. The fourth recommendation is establishing a quality assurance program for elevators. So this includes having a clear quality assurance policy with leadership buy-in around elevators, having regular meetings with expanded stakeholder teams, reviewing elevator performance quality, improved reporting, establishing of audits, and independent inspections. Next slide. Finally, we just wanted to finish on how you could confirm elevator availability before you travel. So the following channels will provide information on the current and upcoming outages, along with details regarding what alternative services you can take during an elevator outage. The first is mbta.com/alerts/access. You can sign up to have alerts sent directly to your phone. You can call the elevator hotline at 617-222-2828, or you can look at the customer information displays in various station lobbies. That is pictured on the right-hand side of the screen. We see the government center display, and it is disclosing that a shuttle service at the time of this picture is needed. It's also important to remember that we have elevator redundancies available at many stations. So if there is not redundancy, we will also provide shuttle services.
All right, Mark, thank you so much for that. I also just wanted to thank the other members of this working group. It's been a uniquely insightful and productive process. I particularly want to thank Jason O'Dowd and Bill Charetz for their role and for their ongoing daily role in keeping these units running. But Mark's last comments there on making sure that riders are aware of how they can find out about current or upcoming outages is a perfect segue to our next presentation. We are joined by Cardi Samaranian, who is going to be from our customer technology team, who's going to be telling us about some of the recent exciting updates in the world of digital signage. Cardi?
Thank you, Laura. I didn't actually realize how good that transition would be. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cardi Subramanian. I work in the customer technology department at the MBTA. And helpfully, I manage all of the applications and systems that Mark just mentioned for how you can get updated about elevators that go out of service. So I'm going to give you some updates, focused a little bit on digital signage. So for context, this is a slide showing 6 different photos of the different types of digital signage that we have installed across the MBTA system. And we have a large and growing program dedicated to making real-time information more widely available across the system. So that's in stations, outside stations, busways, and at bus stops. Next slide, please. So first, an update on what Mark mentioned there. So we have in 10 stations, we currently have these twin LCD screens, And what I want to say is that, so they currently include all elevators that go out of service. So for context, yes, I will speak more slowly. I'm sorry. It's a bad habit. As soon as an elevator is reported out of service to the maintenance control center, that auto creates an alert that you can then find on mbta.com. It could be sent out to you via T-alerts, and it shows up on digital screens. That happens sort of instantaneously. Also, it shows up in the elevator escalator hotline that was mentioned. So we have these screens in 10 stations that, as you can see, this is a photo of a rendering of how those outages actually display on the screens. Today, what they show you is a list of all elevators currently out of service. If there's an elevator out of service at this station, it tells you the alternative path of travel. And if there isn't, then it shows you the sort of detailed alternative path recommended for any outages on this line. So that happens automatically and dynamically. We are still planning to install such screens in every accessible station lobby over the next couple of years. So the update is that we hope to sign a contract for about 250 screens next month, and we hope to do our next batch of installations in late 2023 or early 2024. One other piece that I'm particularly excited about is that we're going to be rolling out some major data improvements that will allow us to make the information that we display on any given screen much more intelligent in time and space, to filter down to just the closures that could affect trips originating here where you are currently viewing the screen. Next slide. So now a quick update on a pilot that we've had in the works for a little while. So this is a pilot of, we've called them elevator screens. The idea here is that, I think we all agree that riders who depend on elevators need better ways to plan their trips and navigate the daily outages of our elevators. And, I think we generally feel that paper-based notices are a poor way of communicating information generally. And it's very difficult for the MBTA to keep that up to date as elevators go in and out of service on a daily basis. So the question that we're trying to answer, next slide, please, is whether a digital screen, a small digital screen at every elevator entrance should become part of our standard elevator specification, or the process by which we sort of, include it in elevator rehabilitation projects. So this is an idea that we've had in the works for a little while. On this slide, you see a photo of a proposed screen like this at the entrance of an elevator at the Forest Hill station. Next slide, please. This slide shows potentially an animated rendering of the information. There it is. It is animated. An animated rendering of the information that we have designed in conjunction with feedback from riders, feedback from system-wide accessibility, the information that we will display on these roughly 21-inch screens. So later this summer, we hope to launch a one-station pilot. It will be at Forest Hills. We will install LCD screens at each elevator entrance and try and get feedback from riders and other stakeholders. I believe system-wide accessibility is going to organize a visit with RTAG, so we can get sort of broad and consistent systematic feedback on the value of this new type of digital signage to make a decision about whether we should scale up our use of such signage. Those are my two updates. So I'll just give you a quick update on some other projects that are related to this. As Judge King mentioned earlier, we've recently wrapped up a pilot of a urine detection sensor. The pilot report is available on mbta.com. Next slide, please. We are, after some delays with supply chains and contractual matters, we are back to our expansion of solar-powered e-ink signage at Green Line surface stops and bus stops. We hope to continue that later this year in 2023 and 2024. In our original pilots, these screens did not include a push button for audio equivalence, but the hardware that we're going to scale up will include a push button for audio. Next slide, please. And finally, a quick update. Our countdown clocks and public address system that are in all of our stations and many major busways, we've recently begun a major modernization effort because we know, this is a legacy system that the hardware was, I think, initially installed starting in 2006. This is a system that we know riders depend on every day. The hardware is much of it is past the end of its useful life. So we have just kicked off, I think probably last year, a major multi-year modernization effort that we hope will both improve improve the failure rates of the hardware and audio issues that we see, and also improve the quality of the information we can deliver to riders through our system. That's it from me.
Great, thank you so much. Next up is Bill Wolfgang, the head of our vehicle engineering department, who I believe is reporting from one of our high-tech conference rooms that allows us to conduct hybrid meetings. Obviously, the MBTA would not be the MBTA without its vehicles. And Bill is here to share some updates about some of the largest vehicle procurements that are underway. Bill? Bill, are you able to unmute yourself? It looks like you are muted. Why don't we try this? There we go. Looks like you are good to go. Yep, you're good.
Excellent. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Bill Wolfgang. I'm Director of Vehicle Engineering. And we've got a lot of new, thank you, Laura. We've got a lot of new projects that are underway, and they're really starting to deliver and provide us new product. I'll start off with our bus projects. We've got 2 brand new bus projects that are underway. Recently, we started delivery of our enhanced electric hybrid buses for the Silver Line. They're 60-footers. We're getting 45 of them. Currently, we have 42 of them. The last 3, like one of the other presenters mentioned about material shortages and supply chain. We're having the last 3 buses. We have a little bit of a supply chain problem with those last 3 buses getting delivered, but we do envision having those delivered here mid-June. I've been promised by New Flyer that they're going to have them here the end of next week. So we're looking forward to closing that out and getting them all into service. That includes 8 buses for the Massport airport with luggage racks. Secondly, we have a 160 bus enhanced 40-foot enhanced electric hybrid buses. This is just underway also. 160 buses, a lot of buses. It's going to take us some time to get them all delivered. We currently have, this is a little bit old. We're now up to 30. It quickly rose on us over the last couple of days. And we're averaging delivering 6 buses per week. It's got the familiar, can you go back? It's got the familiar wheelchair securement area. And something new that we've put onto these 160 buses is a new noise generating system. These buses have what's called geofencing, and they'll be capable of running in selected areas that are to be determined, where they can shut the engine off for extended periods of time. Well, to prevent any kind of pedestrian issues, we've incorporated a sound generator that develops a white noise that that kind of comes out of the vehicle from a standpoint of 0 to 20 miles an hour, and you know, it's to identify that there's a bus coming, and that's something that we're excited to get introduced into the vehicles and moving into that new electric mode notification. Next slide. We're also doing some overhauls. The 60 buses that we delivered back in 2014 are going through a major overhaul. We're also incorporating the geofencing capability into those vehicles, so they'll be able to do extended ranges with the engine off. The pilot bus is due here in July. Also, we have a 25 bus overhaul of our 60-footers from 2010 that just finished up this week. Next week, we're delivering the last bus into service. Next slide. Orange Line, quick update on the Orange Line. We've got 90 cars that have been delivered. They're in multiple stages. A whole bunch of 86 of them are in service, and we've got a couple through the commissioning process. And we're also in process of delivery. So we're moving forward with that. Red Line, we've got 12 cars delivered. Just a couple of features. These have 32-inch wide clearance doors. Each door leaf is 32 inches wide. The audio and video indication of the door openings, closings, and wayfinding. So we've got noise generators that are utilized. Audio and visual station announcements. 4 dedicated seating areas for passengers using wheeled mobility devices, and a gap mitigation device, which is available upon request, and that's located at the threshold of the door. Next slide. Green Lane Type 10, another new exciting project we just kicked off the end of last year. It's 102 cars, 100% low floor vehicle. Estimated delivery of the pilot vehicles is first quarter of 2026, with the delivery of the production vehicles starting in 2027. There's 4 pilot cars that will be delivered upfront. The Type 10 accessibility features are 36-inch wide door. You'll notice on the rendering at the very bottom that front door is a 36-inch wide, and the remaining doors are 53-inch double wide doors. Audio and visual indicators for door opening, closing, and wayfinding. We'll be working with a system-wide accessibility group to make sure that all of these are appropriate for this vehicle. There will be 4 seating areas per car, and bridge plates will be available upon request, and accommodations for future level boarding. These have a different style of door. Next slide. So a new delivery that we've got well underway. We've got 30 coaches of our new Hyundai Rotem bi-level coaches for our commuter rail. We got 30 of them in Massachusetts. Another 4 of them have just arrived yesterday in Baltimore, and they're being offloaded, and they'll be delivered to MBTA over the next couple of weeks. We've got 8 coaches that have entered revenue service, and we're dynamically testing. Even today, we're doing cab signal testing on 4 coaches, and we'll be doing dynamic testing through this week and next week on those 8 that are identified there, and 14 are undergoing static testing, which is everything is checked to make sure it's rail ready before it's introduced onto dynamic testing. And there's 4 more that are being loaded on a ship in South Korea that will be navigating the ocean here shortly. I think that's my update.
Bill, thank you so much. Definitely a lot of big stuff going on. All right, and last but not least, as the judge mentioned in his report, 2 of the remaining settlement items include the need for the MBTA to do a marketing campaign regarding its state of accessibility. And Jennifer Ross from System-Wide Accessibility and Erica Baker from our Customer Experience Department are here today to tell you about that effort. Jen?
Absolutely. Thank you, Laura. So my name is Jennifer Ross. I'm the Deputy Director of Customer Engagement at the Department of System-Wide Accessibility. We are so excited about this marketing campaign, as this is the first time we've done this, and it's been a long time coming. It is just one of our outreach efforts. So what are the goals of this campaign? We'd like to highlight the fact that the MBTA is more accessible than ever before, with so many improvements in the pipeline. We want to raise awareness regarding key accessibility policies and station accessibility features. We want to emphasize the fact that accessibility benefits everybody. And this was a great opportunity we had to collaborate with the plaintiff group, the RTAG e-board, and other riders in a creative and fun way. I spent many photo shoots with our wonderful MBTA photographer, Susanna Hay, and our customers taking some great photos. Next slide. So we worked up some key messages that we wanted to deliver in the creatives, and here is a few samples. Heart conditions, arthritis, depression. The most common disabilities are the ones you can't always see. We've built over 50 new station elevators in the past 15 years, with dozens more in the pipeline. Our 100% low-floor bus fleet, oh, that's a tongue twister, contains more priority seats and a ramp at every front door. We include experiences by real riders to shape our training for our accessible service. And last but not least, an accessible T benefits us all. So if you're here, you probably know about the great work the MBTA and the Department of System-Wide Accessibility is doing to make our system more accessible. But this is our chance to shine. We want to let everybody know. I'm going to turn it over now to my colleague, Erica Baker, in customer experience.
Thanks, Jennifer, and thanks to you all for having me today. We are really excited about this upcoming campaign, as Jennifer mentioned, and wanted to share just a little teaser ad of one of the concepts we're thinking about. On this one, this is just a 4-position only photo. This is not the actual image we're going to use. As Jennifer mentioned before, we had our corporate photographer work with many of our members of our RTAG group and some other volunteers to capture images of real riders on our system. And those will be incorporated into all of the creative executions with photos in the near future. So on this one specifically, this could be an example of something we would share in our stations via the digital screens. On the left panel, need to know about elevator outages. Get alerts sent straight to your phone with an accompanying URL that people can sign up and subscribe to. And then with the tag that many of you are familiar with, Access in Motion, locked up next to our T logo. What we really like about this creative is it can be identified clearly with the blue outline that we want to maintain consistently through all of the executions with this campaign, in addition to hopefully very high contrast copy against a white background, making legibility easy for riders who need it. That's it for this slide. On the next slide, this talks a bit about some of the places that this campaign will appear. We are looking at utilizing streaming audio through Pandora and Sirius XM. We know many people subscribe and listen to the music they like best, so we can hit them right where they're listening. In-station and mobile displays. So as I previously discussed, there are opportunities in-station, both static and on in-station screens. Mobile displays can come in the form of car cards across all modes, including subway, commuter rail, and bus. And then moving on to broadcast radio. So for those who maybe like me listen to just the regular radio, we're looking at pursuing advertisements on our top radio stations with live reads by on-air talent. We're also reaching out to foreign language stations to include some Spanish and also Portuguese audiences. Next on the list, you can see print media. We're going to be in large outlets like the Globe and Herald, additionally community papers throughout our system, and also foreign language press opportunities. Finally, what campaign wouldn't be complete without social media? We will use targeted paid social media via Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for these ads. And I think that wraps it up. In terms of a launch, we are looking at a late September or mid-September launch. Sort of at the time we know many riders are coming back to the system with back to school and everything like that. So look forward to sharing more soon. Thank you.
Great, Erica and Jen, thank you very much. All right, next up, we are moving into the the rider feedback portion of the meeting. Joanne, I'm hoping you are all right. I would like to just flip the order here and ask Elizabeth Foster to speak first from RTAG, only in that I know she has to drop off at 2:30. Elizabeth, are you still with us?
Yes, thank you for that.
All right, thanks. All right, the floor is
Thanks,
yours.
Bill.
Thanks, Elizabeth.
Are we all set up? Fantastic. So the Riders Transportation Access Group, usually known as RTAG, is a community-based group that advises the MBTA on transportation matters that affect people with disabilities and older adults. Our goal is to ensure that all people with disabilities and older adults have every opportunity to be full members of our community, noting that fundamental to this opportunity is the right and ability to use public transportation in an equal, effective, and dignified manner. The big update that we are excited to share is that we welcomed Kat as our new RTAG facilitator in March. And it is with great appreciation and a little sadness that we acknowledge Jessica Fedevsa's departure, as she has made just a huge lasting impact during her time with RTAG, which far extends beyond her serving as our temporary facilitator, as most folks know. Jessica has been a source of encouragement, a trusted confidant, and a pillar of support for us. And we thank her for her remarkable contributions, unwavering dedication, and her positive influence on RTAG, on BCIL, on all of us. And we wish her the best in her new endeavors. Since Kat came on board, they have been focused on continuing the work of restructuring and strengthening the group. We are now working on discussing just like 1 or 2 main focus topics per meeting, and members still have the opportunity to meet with and hear policy and procedure updates from the MBTA, Department of System-Wide Accessibility, and the RIDE. And we'll continue alternating our meetings on matters pertaining to paratransit and then fixed route service so that we can talk about everything. In terms of the fixed route system, the RTAG Executive Board provided input on SWA's accessibility marketing campaign that we were just talking about, designed to highlight improvements to fixed route access and to spread the message that access benefits all customers. This included when and where these ads will show up on the transportation system and local news and radio. And we've continued to partner with the plaintiffs from the Daniels-Finegold versus MBTA Settlement on fixed route advocacy initiatives. Most recently, we were talking about customer outreach protocols. RTAG helped review and provided feedback on requirements for notification and engagement around bus stop specific changes. Customer information displays and interactive information kiosks are now available audibly and visually in the preferred lobbies of bus and subway stations. RTAG participated in feedback sessions relating to the content displayed on these screens, as well as how audio could be improved. And of course, lead plaintiff Joanne Daniels-Finegold is a member of the RTAG Executive Board. If you are interested in becoming more involved and helping RTAG create a more accessible and equitable public transportation system, please reach out to RTAG Boston at bostoncil.org, or call 978-893-8100. Sorry, I have the dyslexia with numbers, and sometimes I'm pretty sure that was right, but check in the chat. Yeah, that was right. Anyway, thank you, and we are gonna now, I believe, turn this over to Joanne.
All right, thank you very much, Elizabeth. Okay, and last but very much not least, we have a statement from Joanne Daniels-Finegold. It is not an understatement to say that we would not be here today without her work, along with the work of the other named plaintiffs who have been keeping accessibility front and center in our minds over the last 20 plus years, and are still actively engaged in moving us forward every day. Joanne?
Hi, thank you. Yeah, there's proof positive in that photo on the right that I used to have black hair. I don't know what happened to my picture. It's gone. But I do have my video on. I don't know why it's not working. Anyway, hi. My name is Joanne Daniels-Finegold, and I'm the first name plaintiff in the Daniels-Finegold et al. Versus the MBTA. The plaintiff group, that's Andy Foreman, Tom Gilbert, Mick Cepeda, and Reggie Clark, that's all of us that are left, are pleased to greet Philip Eng, our new general manager, and recognize and thank Jeff Gonville in his role as interim GM, and all the times and all the positions we've collaborated with him over the years. Since the signing of the settlement agreement, the plaintiffs have worked collaboratively, excuse me, collaboratively with the team. We've, excuse me, worked with the Department of System-Wide Accessibility, of course, but we've also worked with vehicle design and engineering, bus training, bus planning, and other departments within the MBTA. We participated in emergency drills and a whole lot more in order to work together to meet goals. We participated in prioritizing the order of elevator upgrades at the beginning of the settlement, as well as the installation of new and redundant elevators. We've weighed in on bus ramp design. Thank you, Bill Wolfgang, for that. We've participated in driver training. In short, the plaintiffs have worked, cooperatively with the T to accomplish our shared goals. I apologize, there's something wrong with my throat, and I think it has something to do with smoke from Ontario. The judges' semi-annual meeting gives us the opportunity to assess what's going well and what needs work. The call center, the people who write up the complaints that are start over again. The call center determines where the MBTA needs to correct incidents on buses, subways, and light rail. The call center has been outsourced. It was formerly an in-house project. And since it's been outsourced, complaints haven't been properly recorded. There seems to be a lack of understanding of the importance that these reports play in the resolution of problems. Okay. Speaking of problems, we have perennial problems. The T has perennial problems, and we as customers do also, with the cities and towns, colleges, and universities, as well as private entities who have bus stops on their properties. The most prevalent problem is lack of snow removal. Also, cities and towns will place bicycle racks, planters, and other large pieces of equipment in front of bus stops. They also have made bus stops too short for a bus to pull into the curb. They sometimes don't give notice of street repairs. And these are all solvable barriers to transportation. Those issues need to be resolved, particularly snow removal, because in spite of global warming, our New England winters are not going anywhere. There also continues to be problems with the third-party bus vendors, which have recently been covering the commuter rail as well as the subway track work. And this is just from my own experience in one day's travel. They had missing lift keys, like they didn't have the keys to the lift. They're clearly, once they got a bus and lift, a bus and key together for the lift, they clearly lacked the knowledge regarding the deployment of the lift. On the way back from my trip into the city, I was refused a direct trip from South Station to Braintree because the bus was full. And this was long before, like about 10 minutes before the train was scheduled. The train would have been scheduled to leave the station. And there are other passengers who didn't have disabilities who also were told you have to wait another 2 hours for the next bus. I knew that wasn't true. I said no. Besides, this particular company also was running accessible SUVs. I requested one, and I suggested they get another bus to accommodate the people who were also waiting and had been there in time to catch a bus that was to take the place of a commuter rail train. Okay. I'm really sorry. On the plus side, the plaintiffs as well as others in the disability community and passengers without disabilities have been working with marketing. This has been discussed but twice, but we've been working with marketing, the marketing department, to showcase accessibility features available at the MBTA, in the MBTA system, and to demonstrate that accessibility benefits all. Also, the Transit Ambassador Program is going to be soon being expanded. This will help prevent problems within the stations, particularly the larger ones, in which people have been in need of extra help in the stations too, and outside of stations, because of the bus vendors where they need to park, especially in Boston, in order for people to be directed to where to pick up the vendor buses. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry about my voice. In conclusion, I'd like to just send some shout outs to people we've worked with many times at the T, and one who's new. Dave Carney and Bill Wolfgang have been engineering in engineering and well, other way around, bus and engineering. Have worked with us many times and have been listening, and Bill's been a great listening ear, and I really appreciate working with him. Engineers love doing their jobs well. That's really for sure. And Nick Tonkovic, who's managing bus stops. He's got a difficult job, and we appreciate that. We appreciate him. I'm done, people. I'm so sorry. I'm going to go cough my head off soon, but thank you for listening. Bye, Laura.
Thank you, Joanne, so much. Okay, we are now going to open things up for feedback for anyone who would like to share a question or comment. I'm going to ask my colleague Ashley Armand to join me on the screen to help facilitate this portion of the meeting. Two things I will say though before I turn it over to Ashley. One, I know we are coming up on the 3 o'clock hour when we were planning to close the meeting. We have confirmed that our interpreting team is able to stay a few minutes longer, at least until 3:15. So I'm going to say we will keep the meeting open until then. For any of my T colleagues who need to hop off sooner than that, please feel free to do so. If we need to connect a question or comment back to you afterwards, we will do that. But my team and at least a few others will be here until 3:15. The second thing I would ask folks is to please direct your questions and comments to Judge King, and then he will decide how he would like to delegate the question or respond. All right, and with that, Ashley.
Thank you, Laura, and thank you all of you for attending today. Hello, everyone. I'm Ashley Armand, and I'm the Deputy Director of Community Engagement at the T. And as we move into the Q&A, if you'd like to share a comment or ask a question for the judge and members of the system-wide accessibility team, please use the chat feature at the bottom of your screen to submit your typed question or comment to ask questions here. That's an effort to streamline all of your questions and comments, and we've been aggregating that here in the chat throughout the presentation. Please also use Zoom's raise hand feature to indicate if you have a verbal comment. So as Laura mentioned earlier in the meeting, all participants are muted upon entry. So only the presenters right now can be heard. So if you'd like to raise your hand, we'll ask that you unmute, and then you can state your comment or question. I'd also like to note that we'll alternate between reading comments and questions that are already submitted and recognizing those who would like to pose a question verbally. And if you're joining on the phone, you can raise your hand by pressing star, then 9, and all the attendees who speak various languages, you can raise your hand and they'll be interpreted for you. So when we recognize your name, you'll be unmuted and you may speak. And after you share your comment, we'll lower your hand and then an answer will be given. So we'll now open it up to the Q&A portion. Please raise your hand if you have a question or comment for Judge King. And then I'll also be reading from the written comments that were already submitted. But we'll first start with anyone who has their hand raised. Does anyone have a verbal comment?
I see Don Summerfield has his hand raised.
Okay, one moment. I also see Tom Gilbert. Tom Gilbert was first. Tom, I've asked for you to be unmuted.
Okay. Hi, Judge King. I was just wondering. I have a concern in regards to the orange and green line trolleys. It was originally I was originally going to ask Bill Wolfgang, but I'll ask you as a question in general. I'm sure Bill's listening. There's an issue with the external speakers on the especially on the green line cars that they don't. I'm not sure if CAF provided the outside speakers or not on the green line ones, for one thing, and on the orange line cars, not all the externals are reliably working on the orange line cars. So it's like so you can't hear what the destination of the train is from the outside of the train when before you board. So those are two questions there. I was just asking that kind of maintenance.
Okay, Tom, are you talking about the new orange line vehicles?
The brand new orange line vehicles, particularly 1466, that the speaker failed on that one. That's the one the motor person was in. And the green line cars, I don't know if they even provided outside speakers on them on the CAF trolleys.
Yeah, they do. This Bill Wolfgang. Tom, good to see you.
Hey, Bill.
I don't know if you knew this, but you were actually in one of my photos on the red line. So I do appreciate your use of your likeness. 1466. I'm not aware of that, but I can look into it, and I can have the maintenance department to check to make sure that they check that out. As for the green line Type 9s, the Type 9s do have external speakers, and we actually finally got the type 7 change order completed, and we're actually implementing that feature into the type 7 vehicles as we speak. I think we've done a half a dozen of them so far. But I will look into the type 9. And Laura, I'll get back to you with some answers on the 1466 and the Green Line type 9s.
I know these things take time, but could some kind of like a future audit just be done on them just to make sure that the speakers do work in time? I know it takes time and doesn't happen overnight, but maybe some kind of a thing that you get out there just to be sure that that they are working, because I've also had similar issues on the MBTA buses where the front speakers don't work on some of the 18 and 19 NFIs. It's like where the speakers don't work in the front, but they only work in the back and everything. So just wondering, a kind of an audit that could take place just to make sure everything is working.
I know that they do that during their inspection process, Tom, is to make sure that the speaker systems are working. And I will check with them to see if there's anything that vehicle engineering can do to help them enhance that inspection process.
Okay, thanks, Bill. Yeah, it's good seeing you again. Yeah.
All right. So I think
Don?
Don Sunfield, you're next. You may need to unmute, Don.
Well, my name is Don Sunfield. I'm a member of the class. I'm a frequent rider of the MBTA. And since accessibility is about safety to me, I find the T a very unsafe place to be at the moment. I.e., when I get on the T, whether it would be subway, bus, Green Line, etc., I worry about safety is paramount, i.e., a bus being properly maintained, a ceiling tile maybe not falling down on my head that's improperly placed, a light fixture that's tied up with a zip tie instead of properly secured, etc. The MBTA is not safe at the moment, and I don't feel safe. And can I make another comment? Judge King.
Yes, go right ahead.
As far as the new Alpine cars, only the front car has a bridge plate that is deployed, and the other cars are the width of these cars are not sufficient for the gap in most stations. And since there's no sign saying that the bridge plate is only deployed in the front car, is ludicrous in my opinion.
Well, that's a good point, Don. There's a problem with the bridge plates, other than the one where the operator is, because apparently the height is not correct on the platform, and the bridge plate is going over the platform and getting stuck. So they're only opening the one by the operators end. But it's a very good point. The T needs to put out notices so people realize is the bridge plate. I'm sorry. So the bridge plate, the T needs to let the people know that the bridge plate is only available on the front, if that's the case. Can Laura, is there someone who can address that?
Yes, so I can speak to that. So yes, with the on board, we call them currently the gap mitigation device on the new red and orange line cars on the they're currently only operable on the first car for a variety of reasons. A number of them related to safety concerns. That having been said, we're working on a set of proposed changes with the vehicle manufacturer to ensure that if somebody hits the request button in another car, that makes it to the operator, and the operator knows that they need to assist the rider. So those conversations have been ongoing between SWA and vehicle engineering, and are figuring out how to move that forward with the manufacturer.
All right, thank you. Can we have the next question?
Thank you, Don. So the next question that we have is a written comment and question. So we had both Sonia and Jerry ask similar questions, so I'm going to ask both of them. The first is, why is a gap mitigation device not deployed automatically as a safety feature for all? Are there structural issues making this impossible? And the supplemental question to that from Jerry is, what is a gap mitigation device, and is that different than a bridge plate?
I think Laura just addressed that, but you want to expand upon that a little bit, Laura?
Sure, I will address that, and Bill Wolfgang, feel free to jump in, but a gap mitigation device is the term for a brand new feature that was built into the new red and orange line vehicles. It is similar but different in nature than the automated bridge plates we have on our green line trolleys. The gap mitigation device on the red and orange line vehicles basically extends horizontally from the car floor, and its job is really solely to bridge the horizontal gap. It does not provide a ramp or a bridge to any potential vertical gap. Whereas on our green line trains, the bridge plates, as folks know, that really does provide you with a automated ramp off of the trolley. The reason why the gap mitigation devices are not automatically deployed is upon testing, what we found a number of years ago was that essentially similar to the green line too, that there are concerns. This is a moving component of the vehicle that extends from the car floor, in that if that was happening as riders were coming on and off the vehicle at all doors, during all station stops, that there is a risk of people tripping on the device or standing on it when it is moving. So the decision was made to have that feature be upon request only. Also, because the reality is we have a number of vertical gaps in the system, that gap mitigation device does not work at every single platform location across the system. So it really is up to the motor person to make sure that it is safe to deploy. So they are the key intermediary here. Once they would get a request, they will check that it's safe to deploy, and they will deploy the device.
All right, thank you. Can we have the next question?
Next question. Thank you, Laura. We really appreciate that. The next question is from Tara Mati Doucette.
Oh, I had taken my hand down, but I will ask the question anyhow, because if we still have Bill Wolfgang there, perhaps you can answer this. Bill, you spoke about first I should say I'm Tara Mati Doucette. I'm the counsel for the plaintiffs. You talked about the new bus purchases and the size of these buses, and an issue that came up over and over. And I know Tom Gilbert is one who brings this up, and I know the judge will probably know exactly what I'm going to ask about. It's the size of these bus stops and you know, in relationship to the buses that are being purchased. So I don't know if that's an question you can answer. I mean, perhaps it's more for bus stops, the bus stop folks, because I'm thinking we've had a lot of complaints or concerns about the bus stops being too short, not the right length for the new buses. We also had a whole range of bus stop issues, you know, which probably needs collaboration with municipalities and the MBTA. But I was primarily concerned about the size of the buses that are being purchased in relation to the bus stops. Can you comment on that?
I can comment on the bus size. So consistently over the last, several decades, we've been trying to keep our vehicle size regulated to a specific length and width. which is 40 feet long and 102 inches wide. We have, obviously in the early 2000s for sheer magnitude of moving a lot of passengers, we introduced 60 footers into our fleet. And, it's my understanding that our curb cuts and our platforms are all identified to support those vehicles. I'm unaware of any that would be too short. That's not really my expertise on the platform length. But the buses have been consistent since the 70s.
There, I can add to what Bill said, and I don't believe anyone from our service planning team is here, but if I'm wrong, please raise your hand and we'll let you speak to this. But the MBTA has a few years ago put out a set of bus stop design guidelines and is in the process of updating those guidelines as we speak. These guidelines, in addition to being very valuable for MBTA planners and staff, were really meant to help communicate needs and expectations with the cities and towns that we serve. The guidelines talk about the required bus stop length. Yeah, for our bus stops, typically between 60 and 80 feet for our buses to comfortably be able to serve a stop, and they're communicated regularly to the cities and towns. I think we all know that there are challenges out there throughout the system where we have stops where either the stop length due to street infrastructure is too short, or there is a parking spot located at one end of the stop that doesn't give us that full length that we need. And those are ongoing conversations that happen on a regular basis. It certainly is a challenge, and that the municipalities really own the vast majority of those decisions and infrastructure. But we've been working on educating them on what we need and the benefits of those changes. So, Tom, I know you're particularly good at this, and a number of other folks in the meeting. If there are specific stops that you are aware of that are posing issues due to stop length, please send those details into us, and we can work with our service planning team to advocate for changes at the city level.
Thank you so much. Tom, I see that your hand is raised, but before we go to Tom, Elizabeth Dean Clower, we saw your question. However, we'll need a little bit more context. So I sent you a message in the chat. Hopefully you can give us more clarity on your question, and we'll be sure to ask it in the room today. Tom Gilbert?
Hi, well, it's not so much a question, but I wanted to say that from a long time ago, with the discussions that I've had with Dave Carney, is that like Laura was mentioning earlier, that on your 40-foot bus, 60-foot far side after intersection, 80-foot near side, 100-foot mid stop. And unfortunately, the cities and towns are not meeting these goals, and unfortunately, and I think every transportation department in these towns and cities that have T service go through them, I think need to start acting like transportation departments and actually start working with the T, because the MBTA has been MBTA since 1964. And after all these years, it just amazes me why they don't have their act together in figuring this out. That you can't expect the T entity itself to look after 8,000 bus stops all at once, and that's we all know that's not realistic. So I think these transportation departments within these towns and cities that receive T service need to get on board, if not have the highway funding cut as a penalty, as the carrot and stick type thing in order to make them do their jobs. And I just wanted to say that as far as getting solutions to these issues. And yeah, my bus stop outside my place continues to be a problem. They recently took a bus stop at Broadway and Bellingham Street on the 89 route that used to be an 80-foot, and then now all of a sudden it's more a 40-foot near side now. So how did that happen? They changed the zone sign around and made it smaller. So I wonder if is that the T, or was that the city bullying the T, saying no, we want more parking spaces? So it really makes me wonder. It just astounds me. But that's what I wanted to say. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Tom. And if you if you want to make a note of that, Laura, so you can try to track down what happened on that bus stop outside his home.
That's brought away at Weston WSTON.
Briefly, I'd like to make note that neither of our ASL interpreters can stay at this time. They both need to leave.
Oh, okay.
All right, Ashley. Yes, I'd like to thank our interpreting staff for their support today. I would say if anyone would like to stay, but I would like to close out the primary meeting now. Thank everyone for joining us, and Judge King, thank you for your reports. If anyone would like to stay with a specific question, feel free to do so. And we will take those in small groups or one-on-one. If anyone requires ASL, we will schedule a follow-up session or follow-up conversation with you at your convenience. Again, apologize for the meeting running over.
All right, do we have any other questions? Are there any other written questions?
Nope, we have no other written questions at this time. We just need clarity from one writer who will be messaging us.
Okay.
And Tom, you do have your hand raised, but before we get to Tom, does anyone else in the chat have any other questions or comments that they would like to give the judge or our system-wide accessibility team? Okay, no comments or questions. So Tom, if you have a final question, we can get to that, and then we'll be watching the chat for more.
Am I on? Okay.
Yes, you are.
Oh yeah. I have some good news. I got actually the good news I got from one of my favorite T bus drivers. I guess with these new buses, they have extra cameras now to mitigate the bus stop parking problem and people that park and the people that are using the bus lanes. So I guess they're going to be extra cameras on the new 3000 series buses that are going to I guess accomplish this. So it's good to hear that something's going on now with that, and I guess it particularly emphasizes on license plate numbers on the illegally cars that are illegally parked at the bus stop. So I was wondering if anybody wanted to say anything about that. Thanks.
Sure, I can say a lot about it. So we introduced during our overhaul of the 25 60-foot buses that I mentioned earlier, we introduced license plate readers. So there's a little camera built into the front of the vehicle that is taking pictures of the lane of travel for these buses, and if there is any impeding traffic that's not supposed to be there, it takes a picture. The 3200s that we're delivering right now are going to have that incorporated into them also. So we'll have the 25 for the 60 footers and 160 40 footers. So yeah, that's a.
What about blocked bus stops?
Well, it'll take pictures, Judge, and it will As far as I understand, it will go through our security department and then be handed over to the police department. And I don't know the actions that will happen from the police department, but it's kind of new to us, and we're just getting into that so we can keep our lanes free and clear.
Well, that's a great development. Yeah.
Thank you for that. We have a written comment that came in from ARCA. And please let me know if there's anything else that you would like me to add to this question, which is, how is local body involved in this particular context? ARCA, can you let us know what additional context you mean by that question? Until then, let's go to Taramati. Taramati, I think you're muted.
Oops. First, I want to say, Bill, we totally appreciate you. Over the decade plus, plaintiffs have been collaborating and working with, Department of Engineering, specifically with you on bus design and all of that. And it's been fantastic. And that's why I threw that bus length question your way, because some of the issues that Tom raised, it really has to do, I think, maybe with cities and towns. And this, I think Laura addressed that issue already, but I just wanted to mention that that we really appreciate the work you've been doing on the buses. So thank you.
Thank you. I've got a great team that works with me, and I got a great boss. So I've got absolutely no complaints, and we enjoy working with the system-wide accessibility groups and improving our system to accommodate everybody.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments or questions? Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. Judge King, would you like to give us the closing remarks?
Yes, I'd like to thank you all for turning out today. It's a great turnout. And I want to thank the T management for the wonderful presentations you gave. And look forward to our next meeting on December 6th at 5:30. And hopefully by then the to-do list will be very narrow. You all have a nice, safe summer and a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Thanks, everybody.